What could they be? Book time. Book time. Okay, welcome back, team. I want to talk about my 5-star reads of the year. There have been a lot, so I actually pared it down too a little bit because I want this to be tangible and not just like, what is all that nonfiction crap? Also, look at how cute my computer case is. Are we joking? So good. So let's just jump on in. I guess I can go in order of the year. Well, we started off strong. My first book of the year was actually a 5-star, and it's just literary fiction. And man, does that, and kind of historical fiction, but it makes me feel so mature because I'm not just reading romance, even though I fully support that and I love romance and like cheesy fiction. It also feels really good to just like read whatever you want. But The Four Winds, a Kristin Hannah. This was so beautiful. It kind of goes back to the Age of the Dust Bowl. It's a generational story a little bit, and it's really sweet and sad and beautiful, and you get so connected to these characters. But we have the main character named Elsa Wolcott, and Elsa is part of a very religious traditional family and then gets into another family and has a lot of troubles that come along and basically gets into a family that is really big on farming, which is really big in this time period, which is 1921 is when this begins. And things go south. We all know the Dust Bowl. We all know how sad that was. And you watch her and her family journey through this experience, and you get to know these characters really well, and you get to feel, it's just so heartwarming, and it's fast-paced enough, and it's uplifting enough, and you watch some characters in here persevere through some crazy stuff. And it also is just so real because this is a fictional story, obviously, but so much of this happened and was real for so many families. And it gives you so much perspective because I mean, you learn about the Dust Bowl, you know, at some point in elementary or high school, and then I don't ever think about it or remember it, but this was amazing. It really was amazing. She's such an incredible author. I mean, I would never pick up a book like this and think, I can't wait to read that. And I remember I actually read it on my Kindle originally, and then I bought the book because I really wanted it because I want to be able to read this again. It is amazing. So numero uno, this one was awesome. And then this is kind of fun, a little different. I love fantasy. And I was pushing myself to get into more traditional fantasy. And so, yes, we could have done Lord of the Rings or something along those lines. But I went with Brandon Sanderson's The Way of Kings. And first, yeah, it smelled good. It smelled good. But this was incredible. I am like, I've only started reading within the last few years, like really reading, like X books a month kind of reading. And I love like fantasy romance. I loved ACOTAR, like that kind of fantasy where it's like easy and digestible. Not to say ACOTAR is so easy and like put down a really popular series, but that's more appealing to a girl my age, a woman. But this seemed a little scary and a little daunting. Over 1,000 pages, right? It's amazing. It's amazing. Brandon Sanderson is such a good writer. He wrote these incredible characters, and it had multiple, I think 3 different stories happening, 3 main stories that developed so well. Like watching the character development and then watching the stories fold and bend and do things. Wow. I'm not usually one for alternating stories or perspectives. Sometimes it feels like the author has one really good character and then they're just like making you wait for it by making you listen to what their brother thinks or like another character, you know? But this was so good. It was so amazing, and I couldn't help. So this was a 5-star, easy 5-star, and I honestly read it pretty quick. Like while this is a mass market paperback, it is also like, I don't know, these don't feel like massive pages, so it was kind of easy to fly through. And I don't know if you're like me, but I like to finish a chapter when I'm reading, so I'm just like chapter, and some of these are pretty short chapters, some are pretty long. But it was so amazing. There was one weird thing in here I didn't love. I think they're called the interludes, and they would have like random stories throughout it. That made me not happy because this book is so long. But then they would have relevance, and then you would be like, okay, I get why you're there. And then you kind of enjoy them, and it'd be a nice little break from the storyline, which is fun too, because sometimes you would want something different, so you want to pick up a different book, but it's kind of nice to get that inside of this, you know? But this is the first book in the Stormlight Archive. I think there's 4. So first book, down. Second book is the second book in the Stormlight Archive, Words of Radiance. And this was incredible too. I mean, I really do struggle with series. I'm not gonna lie. unless it's like, I don't know, I need to read Game of Thrones. I need to read some of these classic fantasy series, you know, and I need to finish Lord of the Rings. But I often am just so sucked in by the first book because I'm so excited. A new world building, new awesome characters, all these things, that by the time that I get to the next books, it's like so slow and boring and I'm not excited. This at no point felt slow and boring and I was so excited to read it. And this is another honker. I mean, what is this? Oh my gosh. Is this like 1300 pages, almost on the dot? This is longer than the Bible, I think. This should be your fantasy Bible. Anyways, I really recommend these. I think just go for it. Literally just go for it. Also, it was like, I think I bought this one. I kid you not. I bought this at a second in chart, like one of those used bookstores for $3.25. You guys. And this was incredible reading. And I think I paid $4 for this one. What? Come on, team. Okay, let's jump into this one next. We've all heard a lot about this one. Yellowface. This was so good. I read R.F. Kuang's Babel, which I really liked, and that was definitely more academic and in-depth, and she did a ton of research for that, which was very obvious, and it was very impressive. But I was a little more dense, and I think it moved a little slower. This was nuts. And I think this was the perfect book to write. Oh my gosh. So the main character, June. Oh, it was June Hayward and Athena Liu. I'm pretty sure is how you pronounce that. Basically. And I'm not spoiling anything. I'm just gonna give you what is kind of in this, you know, the little like flap of whatever that's called, summary thing, introduction to the book. But there's a girl named Athena who is, I think we're not gonna assign ethnicity here. I don't want to just say something. Athena is Asian. She's of Asian descent. And June is not. And they're close friends, except June doesn't really like Athena. Anyways, they're getting closer, and they've both been writers. They're both pretty young. They're the same age. They've been doing the similar things, except Athena, the Athena Liu, has actually been popping off, and she's she's gifted, she's beautiful, she's loved. She's like, I think she got a movie signed. Like, so much is happening. She's very famous for her writing. But then June, her counterpart, another girl who's really into writing and very similar vibes, except this is a white girl and she's really jealous of Athena because she's been doing the same work, working just as hard, and she feels like it's unfair. She's upset, and it's getting to the point where she's like having a hard time celebrating her because she's just like, okay, great, you keep winning. Like, what's next? And Athena dies. Yeah, I'll say it's a freak accident. I'll say what they say. And June steals Athena's just finished masterpiece on Chinese laborers during World War I. And you can imagine what happens next. She takes it with her as if she's written it, and what's going to happen. And this is amazing. It has such incredible themes of like racism and like the kind of the underbelly of racism. Like, you don't expect it, where the white girl is jealous of the minority who's finally getting a stage and a voice. And I mean, Yellowface, I didn't actually read into this when I was going into the book. I was kind of just like, R.F. Kuang, let's go. I mean, it's like the idea of blackface, right? I'm not going to say much more there. But this is incredible. And I think it is just like this perfect other point of racism that isn't talked about as often. And it's incredible and so eye-opening. And I couldn't put it down. Like, there are so many little turns in here. And it feels like it feels like such a good mirror for where a lot of people are at least the West of the world. Yeah, I highly recommend this. And it's a pretty short read. It was pretty quick, and it's really witty. It's funny. I think it's like 300 pages maybe. Yeah, 320. Guys, this was so good. I think I read this in one day. I think I actually read it in like 2 sittings in that one day. I couldn't stop. Okay, I guess I'll do the books I don't have with me physically last, maybe. But Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. This shook my world, and I'm just going to say, if you're into spirituality and quantum physics and the 3D versus the 5D and what this all means, and consciousness and love and blah, 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 if any of these are words that mean something to you, read this book. It was amazing. If anything, like, it's just beautiful to see. Like, he quotes or cites studies, I don't think that are his, but a lot of studies in here are his too, where people have come together and meditated on this idea of peace and love and gratitude in specific areas, like thousands of people, and they watch the crime rate lower for that exact period of time when they're meditating. And then when they stop meditating, the crime rate rises again. That's just a little hint, a little sneak peek into what this kind of stuff is. And I don't think this conflicts with anything religiously. I think if anything, it aids the like understanding of God and everything. But that's how I roll. So that may not be how you roll, but you should look at reviews. Some people are like, another woo-woo spiritual book. but it has totally changed my life. And I actually read this on my Kindle too through Libby, and then I bought the physical book so that I can go through and highlight, like take all the notes that I had in here originally. Yeah, I think this was incredible. I can't speak enough about it. I actually gave this 6 stars. This is one of my 6-star reads, not even 5, 6. It was that good. Little nonfiction moment. Back to our fiction. Oh my gosh, this book was so good. Lady Tan's Circle of Women. I just read this one a few weeks ago, actually. Wow, this was incredible. This is really sweet. This is about a woman named... Oh, maybe her name just is Tan. Lady Tan. Sorry. I just don't want to get anything wrong here. But she's born into a family, and I think this is the 1400s, I think. I'm really just pulling that out of my rear end right now. Basically, during a time, and it takes you back to these traditional women and how, like, what these traditional roles look like. And she comes from a very strict background, and she has like binded feet is a very important part of this tradition. It's like a gift you're passing on to your daughters. And she is really into medicine and like just like traditional Chinese medicine, which is also incredible and still super like applicable, which is so cool reading this too, because you learn so much about traditional Chinese medicine and like why people still practice it. And it's so cool. I love good historical fiction. I feel like I'm learning while also understanding so much about traditions and roles, and not even in a, like, it's so oppressed, which, like, yes, but also the beauty behind tradition and, like, why they were in place, and that these are forms and, like, kinds of love that people would hand off to each other. Even though oppression is like a big role in this, it's crazy though. And so it becomes a generational. I love these generational books, and it's really inspiring. It's a very fast read. You're so invested in your main character and her best friend who's in a different societal class than she is. And it's very cool. Like you have like concubines of women. There's all the layers to this onion are in here and done so well. You have so much empathy for the characters, and you begin to understand so much about what's going on. I feel like I'm not describing this book like it's plot well, but you go with her as a young girl all the way to when she's an old woman, basically. And it's incredible. Ba-da-ba-ba. I have the memory of a goldfish, so maybe it's just take my Rex, take them and run with them. Okay, we all know this one. We all know this one, but I'm still gonna talk about it. Our Queen. I actually read this one I read a lot of books on my Kindle, actually. I'm a financial girl. I'm a financially smart girl. But then when they're so good that I want to buy them, I buy them so that I can mark them up. Because I took all these notes in my Kindle and I want to go and highlight. I highlighted so much in this book. Emily Henry is the best little... It's honestly, a lot of YouTubers say this, where it's basically literary fiction with like a subplot or like a heavy plot of romance that is part of the development of the characters, but that it's also so much about these young girls getting their lives together. And I think she's like around her 30 in here, so it's not even like she's 19 and setting off into the world. Like, it feels more relatable. Basically, the premise here is we have the main female, Daphne, who's engaged to a man named Peter, and then Peter has a best friend named Petra, and Petra is with another guy. That guy. Yeah. During Peter's bachelor party, which Petra was invited to, which us girlies know that doesn't make no sense, and like we wouldn't do that, but maybe you're not sure, maybe you would, who knows, but like already kind of like flags everywhere, you know. They decide they're meant to be together, and so Peter breaks off the engagement with Daphne, and Daphne's like, what? Okay, this is awesome, and is kicked out of the house that they were living in that is technically his and his family's. And so she's like, what do I do? And since Petra is with him now, Petra was living with this fellow, I can't remember his name. She moves in with him because she's like, I have nowhere else to go. And they're both just like sad and depressed and roommates. And it's such an incredible story. I actually want to read this again right now. It's just it's so amazing to have empathy for a character, but understand the experience. And obviously I've never been engaged and had my engagement called off like the weekend or the week before or something, but we've all been hurt. I picked ourselves up and watching her do it with grace. And there's like some messy family things going on in here that makes it relatable, messy job things. There's a main character, when like a close friend, she makes it work. And that, I love the story of that one because that is so real, of like hurting your friend's feelings. And like, what do you do when you hurt like someone you care about you? It's someone who you care about. You didn't mean to hurt, and you love them so deeply and you feel so bad. This handles some beautiful themes that I struggle with, or things that I've had to handle. Like either being the girl that hurts her friend's feelings on accident, or like gets her feelings hurt. You guys, this is so cute. And this is also a quick read. Well, actually, okay, around 400. I feel like 400 and under, I'm like, this is a day or two. We can do this. Like grinding though. I'm not some like, read. Like, it takes time. I just commit a lot of time to reading is honestly what happens. Boom. So my last few books are, I don't have physical copies of, but one of them was a 6, I'll end on the 6, actually 2 of them were 6 stars. But next is one I just read recently called The Storied Life of AJ Fikry. It's by Gabrielle Zevin, the same author of Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which is right on my desk, and I actually haven't read it yet. It's part of my TBR for the next month or the summer. But wow, is that a sweet book. It's like coming of age for a man in his 40s, but it's so sweet. And I love bonding with characters and watching them evolve. It's honestly, it was similar vibes to Frederick Backman's A Man Called Uva. A similar vibe to that, but like not the same, but like similar vibe of like man coming to age story. But he's not that old. He's not that mean, I don't think. But it was beautiful. I like this one much better than A Man Called Uva. And that was a really sweet book. But it was just the perfect, also like catch my breath between like a heavy nonfiction or a really heavy fiction book, like something that would break my heart a little bit. I'm not gonna say what book that is and spoil, but it was a perfect palate cleanser. That's the word I'm looking for. Perfect palate cleanser. Really, that was so good, so good. So I don't have that one with me, but that one's really short. That took me a flight and a half to read. So, oh my gosh. Okay, the next 2. I talked about this book in my Feral Summer TBR because it totally is a feral girly book, but Women Don't Owe You Pretty by Florence Given. Intro to feminism, intro to uplifting the minorities, and it was so well written and so cute, and I want to own it, but I can't just buy all these books, y'all. We gotta be smart. So I want to own it, and we will soon, I'm sure. I actually just put in a thrift books order. It's okay. I forgot. But that was so good, and I read that one on my Kindle in like 2 afternoons in bed. I was so excited to get off work and just get into my bed and read. So I did for a few days. But that was amazing. That was really amazing. And so like if you need a little uplifting moment, boom, she's got it for you. She's just such empowering language and she's so real. Last book, 6-star book, and the sequel comes out, I think this next November. What the River Knows by Isabel Ibañez. Oh man, I'm not saying that right. By Isabel. She has her little, sorry, I don't know how to say her name correctly. I don't want to make it worse. We'll spell it somewhere. But that book. Wow. This young girl, I quite remember the time period. It's a while ago. Her parents are archaeologists and they're always gone. They're always in Egypt doing some work. And then one day she gets a letter saying something has happened. And so the main character is like, I'm going to Egypt. And it is such a cool story. I've never read anything like it. The plot is so beautiful. The characters are so well done. It folds and bends perfectly. And it ends on the craziest little cliffhanger. And I was like, I finished the book. Then I'm like, when is the second book come out? And I was so bummed. I was like, maybe it'll come out this year. Because I didn't know when this book came out. And I still don't really know when this book came out. But it made me sad because it was so good. It was so good. Wow. That was like the perfect... It is fantasy, it is romance, a bit of a thriller. Not like thriller, like scary, but just like fast-paced mystery, maybe is a good way to put it. And I feel like I don't know what to call that genre. That's my last book for this. These have been my 5 and 6-star reads of the year. I recommend you read all of them. Oh my gosh. Or if none, like What the River Knows. It's probably just because it's on my head right now, but it is such an incredible book. And it just goes into so many like correct aspects of history too, like historical fiction parts of it. And there's a little magical realism element in there. I could not recommend it more. I think it was so good. Yeah, there's a little pile on my bed now, but those are my books. And I hope you enjoyed this and that you read them. They're so good. They're so good. Reading is the best. And so is my computer case. She's the best. Whatever. Okay, bye.